Hello darlings, this video goes out to all of the people of the world. The people of colour and the people of not colour. I don't even know how that works. I am not a person of colour, but I've got a good tan. Anyway, today I'm going to talk about open and closed loops and how it's very important that our loops remain open. I'll explain what I'm talking about on the other side. So have you noticed what's happening in the world? We are in the moment of revelation, and boy, is a lot of stuff coming out. Yes, it is. Information about corruption, about what people have done, stealing the elections, blah, 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 blah. All of that. Endlessly. And not one fucking arrest. Not one. Okay? I was talking to my friend the other day when we were driving to the hospital, and he said, all of this is coming out. He said, but you know, it always ends up like a big nothing burger. Like nothing happens. Why is that? And I've often wondered about that. It's like, you know, I'm not even interested. You know, what? Obama stole the election. And what's going to happen? You know, is he going to go into prison, in the male prison, with his husband, Big Mike? No, he's not. And I say, you know what, just don't even bother telling me, because nothing's going to happen. So I laid that on the emissaries. And they said this to me, which I thought was very important. They said, it's good that nothing happens. Don't expect anything to come of the information that's coming out. That's not the point. They said, in fact, what happens is we want it to come on, let's have it, it's coming out. I remember during the pandemic, like somebody would do a video and I go, oh my God, the truth is coming out. Thank God. Oh man, it's going to be everywhere and everyone's going to see it. And then nothing. And then nothing. I go, well, what happened to that? What happened to that massive truth burger that turned into a nothing burger? But what the emissary said is this. What we want is this information coming out. But what we don't want is for it to bring an end to everything. They said we don't want everything to come to an end. That's not going to work, because it's not at an end yet. The Great Awakening's still in the birthing stage. And so if everything came to an end and go, oh, that's it, it's all corrupt, we're going to bring it all to an end, so would the Great Awakening come to an end, because everyone would say, oh, it's all done. Yeah? And so what they said is, the purpose of the revelation is for people to notice, the great noticing, is for people to notice. That's it. And then it continues. And then more people notice other stuff. And then they notice something else. And then they notice something else. So what they reminded me of was about therapy. Hypnotherapy. In fact, there's a process called, in hypnosis, called opening a loop and then closing a loop. So how does it work? Opening a loop is this. So I say to you, so one day, this boy was walking down a road and he noticed something in the gutter, something shining. He bent down to look at what it was, and he noticed that it was a coin. It was a silver coin, but it was very old. And on the coin there was an inscription that said, this coin will lead you to somewhere very special. See the details on the back. And the boy turned the coin. And you know, that reminds me of another story about a girl that was walking along the road and somebody came up to her and spoke to her. So what have I done? What I've done is I've opened a loop. I've opened a story about a boy finding a coin, and he's turned the coin to find out the kind of the instructions on the back. But I haven't told you what it is. Then I said, oh, and it reminds me of another story. So what happens is I've opened a loop and I've left it open. What does that do to the unconscious mind? The unconscious mind likes to have closure. It's very important. Closure is very important. This is why if you start a film that's really good and you have to stop it halfway, you have to watch it later. Very often your mind's running through, I wonder what's going to happen, I wonder what's going to happen, I wonder what's going to happen. Okay? The same with the story of the boy with the coin. Even though it was just an example, your mind's saying, but yes, what was on the back of the coin? What was it? What was the message? Okay? So this is what's called opening a loop. So this is what you do in hypnosis. Why do you do it? Because when you have the loop open, you have the attention of the person fully and completely. The person's like this going, I've got to stay alert and aware until that loop is closed. What happens when you close the loop and you say, and he turned the coin over and the coin said, you are all that you've ever needed in this life. You and God. Okay? That was the story. So now I've closed the loop. I've told you what was on the back of the coin. What happens when you close a loop is your mind goes, oh, okay, done. Finished. And very often, finished and done, I don't need to focus on it, forgotten. Okay? And so, that is what's happening at the moment in the world. Loops are being opened. Obama stole the election with Hillary Clinton and blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's what they're saying. Soros is bringing in, through the ONGs, bringing in all the migrants, etc. Like the British government is actually recycling the boats and taking them back so that more people can come in. All of these open loops that are not closed. There's no closure. There's no, and what happened was, no. Open loops. The emissary said that this is really good. Why? Because if the loops were closed, people would get on with their life. They would forget it. They would go, oh, okay, yeah, done now. It's the same. Imagine that the government was overthrown and a new one went in. People would go, that's fine. Lovely. Sorted now. I can just get on with my life. But no. Open loops. We have millions of open loops at the moment. Truly, in terms of stuff that's not been resolved. P. Diddy. How many loops were opened there? How many loops have been closed? None. Because all we're told is, oh, well, they were just a 10, blah, 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 and then blah, blah. What about all these loops? What about all this lube? Never mind the loops. Everything's left open. That is not done by accident. That's done on purpose. Why? Because then people can't not look. They're constantly alert. And the emissary said, that's what the Great Awakening is about. That's how you wake people up. By opening a loop and not closing any of them and opening. And people are going, but what the fuck's happened? But what about that? What about all this corruption? What about the corruption during the pandemic with all of the PPE stuff? What about that? That happened here in Spain, happened in the UK, happened in other countries. What happened with that? Not one fucking arrest. Not one person that was lost a job. None. All just forgotten about. Open loop. Loop open. That's where we are. That, unfortunately for us who are well awake, we want some loops fucking closed. Please, at least just close one. Just arrest one person. Just make one person an example. That's not where we are. They said later on, all the loops will be closed. Later on, everything will be closed, but not for the moment, because we need the attention of the people. We need people to have a slap on the face, and then another slap on the face, and then a punch up the bracket. That's what they need all of the time. Because they're in such deep sleep, they're in such denial that they've got to get their attention. And that's how they do it, opening a loop. And so the girl that was walking along the road, and she saw somebody who came up to her and said, I've got a really important message to say to you, and this message will change your life. Shall I leave that loop open? I'll tell you. The message was exactly the same as the one on the coin. All you've ever needed in your life is you and God. And that's it. I love you all. Tell me what open loops you've got on at the moment. What things are niggling at you that haven't been finished? that you think, at least I should have finished that one, put in the comments. I love you all and I'll speak to you all later.